To my people on the side, can y'all see? Y'all can see? Okay. All right. Just want to make sure y'all can see everything. First, stay still a part of the group. So if y'all good, we're good. Aaliyah, we good?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I don't want to record anybody. Yeah. Whatever. That's fine. We're good.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Good evening. Good evening. Thank you. Yes. Respond. How are we doing? Well. How are you? Well. Good. I'm doing all right. I'm doing all right. Thank you guys for coming to our Howard University Counseling Service Outreach Workshop centered around anxiety. Shout out to everyone who came to our first workshop where we discussed managing test anxiety. It was amazing seeing all y'all's wonderful, beautiful faces, and now we got even more people. So thank you. Give yourselves a hand for coming out. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Yes, so this is the second iteration of our anxiety workshop series where we're going to talk about managing anxiety while maintaining motivation. We know that the end of the semester, it is coming upon us, it is here, and that can be a really hard time for us to feel like we're being motivated. Some people think that, oh, it's the end of the semester, I got to lock in, but sometimes our body don't really catch up to our brain like that. Sometimes it feels like our motivation is going down while the pressure is coming up. So we want to talk about that and really give you guys some tools to help maintain that motivation, maintain that morale, and maybe even manage some of that anxiety. So we're going to introduce ourselves and then we're going to get right into the workshop. So, oh yeah, introductions. Okay. Hi, I'm Karis. I am a third year clinical psychology doctoral student here at Howard University. And some of y'all might know me because I teach your stats lab. Hello, hello. But for those of you who don't, hey, hey, y'all.
Hi, everybody. My name is Aaliyah. I am a second year clinical psychology student at Howard. It's good to see all of you again. I'm excited to spend the evening with you and hopefully give you some tips that you can utilize to help manage some of that anxiety as we go throughout the semester. So it's good to see you. I'm glad to see you all that were here last week, and then those of you that are here today. Oh, thanks.
I ain't get no applause.
Right. That's pretty hard. I miss y'all.
What's up, y'all? I am Destiny, or Des. Y'all can call me whatever. I am a third year clinical psych doctoral student. I'm training at the Howard University Counseling Service. I don't attend Howard's program. I'm just training here, but I'm local and I'm enjoying this experience so far. So it's nice to get to know or get to see some faces, and hopefully we'll become a little bit more familiar as the year goes on.
Y'all so nice.
I know. All right, let's jump right into it. So just as last time, we got some questions for you. So does anyone feel like they're running on empty? Yes. Feel like,
That was quick.
yeah, show
That was
hands.
quick.
I hear you. I see you. I hear you. Especially given the recent events of this election, it might feel like hope is lost. But it's not though. It's not. But as we're juggling, like handling current events, as we're handling the end of the semester, as we're even nearing the holidays, a lot of times it can be hard to maintain motivation, whether that's motivation to end the semester strong academically, motivation to show up, maybe for your friends, maybe for your family, maybe you have other responsibilities, you have a job, you have internships that you're looking at. It can be really, really, really hard to maintain that motivation when you're stuck trying to juggle all of these different responsibilities and handle increasing pressure. So we want you guys to discuss with your neighbor, say, look to your left, say, hey neighbor. Thank you. So we want you guys to discuss with your neighbor Do you feel more or less motivated now than you did at the beginning of the semester? If you're feeling maybe more or less motivated, how do you know that? What are some things that you're feeling in your body? How is your routine changing? How is your mindset changing? What are some thoughts that are coming up for you as maybe you're navigating lower motivation, or even if you're go-getter, pressure is on and you're locked in, maybe those are feelings you're feeling more motivated. So discuss that. And then also, what are some ways that you cope with low motivation? What are some things that you're doing? Are you investing more in your self-care, or do you find yourself spending less time maybe doing some self-care things, maybe less time taking care of yourself in terms of sleeping, in terms of eating? Discuss some of the ways that you cope. So go ahead, we'll give y'all a few minutes to discuss with your neighbors, and then we'll open up discussion to the larger group.
Don't be shy, y'all.
Without recording, like, no.
Right there,
What's the one that you're doing?
All right, y'all, let's bring it back in, bring it back in. All right, so spreading the conversation, opening up to the larger group. What were some of the things that y'all talked about? Y'all feeling motivated, or is it on the downward spiral? Yeah. Who wants to talk about it? Journey.
Okay, so y'all keep calling my name out, but I definitely feel like less motivated as we get to this point in the semester, and that's like constantly a pattern that's happened to me. I've noticed like towards the end of the semester, I start like falling off with my motivation and my practices of keeping me updated in class. And I feel like it's because me personally, I do so much work at the beginning of the semester to like make sure I have that cushion right here at the end. So like if I miss an assignment or something, then it all falls off. So once everything like starts getting reported, I'm just like, okay, happy day, happy day, happy day. But I feel like not a good headspace to be in towards like these goals that I'm constantly be like working towards instead of just falling off before them.
Got you. Got you. Very interesting. Anyone else? Yeah, Joe.
Oh, you know my name
Yes.
me and my partner was talking about like, at least for me, I feel like I was locked out from the beginning because this year, no, I know safe space, y'all safe space.
It's real.
I feel like just the energy this year just feels discombobulated, and so but my great partner over here, he was like, you gotta set goals, and every time you set a goal, you get to feel better about yourself, increase motivation. So I'm gonna try to do that.
Look at that. Giving tips already.
Yeah. I saw a lot of nods when she said that this year kind of started off like the energy was different. The energy kind of seemed a little off, disoriented. Is that how people are feeling? Yeah. What are some ways that y'all kind of cope with having low motivation? What were some of the coping mechanisms? Yes.
I was talking to my partner about like a reward system. Like for me, I thought about this question more so like pertaining to my grades in the new year. So like let's say like I get distracted easily. So for example, I'll be on my phone for like 10 minutes and then I'll turn my phone off and then I'll log back in to do work. So I'm not only coping with the low motivation, but I'm also getting work done at the same time. And then I also think about um my grades as well. So if I'm like not motivated, like the work's not gonna get done. If the work's not gonna get done, then like my grades are going down. So I need my grades to be like up there. So I have to get the work done.
Alright. Yeah.
For me, I also thought about it in terms of like work and everything. Like,
Can't hear you, love.
oh, I said I also think of it in terms of like schoolwork and everything when we were saying like low motivation. So what I do is I try to romanticize the way I do my schoolwork. So like I'll put my phone on time lapse mode. I'll get myself like all pretty, all dressed up and everything. And then like I'll light a candle at my desk. I'll have like some nice lighting as well. So I can lock in. I take my little Podmoro. I have like a little Podmoro thing that's all pretty. So I can do my 30 minutes on, 5 minute break, 30 minutes on, 5 minute break, 30 minutes on, 15 break. And then I just like romanticize it to make it feel like, oh, I can only move for 15
You know, whatever works. I love it. I love
Wow.
it.
Yeah, that's awesome. You guys shared a lot of, I would say, adaptive coping mechanisms. Does anyone feel like they have a habit that's formed that may not be so adaptive?
We got two hands on deck.
Well, I don't know if it applies to what you just asked,
Mhm.
but I know for me, my motivation to go to class is like so bad right now. And it's
Mm.
like I live off campus, so I have to drive. And it's like when I drive, I have to figure out where to park. And like sometimes parking in bar gives me a lot of stress because then I have to park really far and walk all the way to class. Or like sometimes I just won't find parking at all. On specific days, it's really hard to find parking. So like when I know that, like I probably should just come to school earlier. But like besides that, I have other things to do. So it's like besides that, sometimes I just have to like break down my thoughts and get rid of a lot of them. So it's like all I have to think about is getting to class. I don't have to think about parking or the stress of like having to sit in traffic or like all the other things. Like even if I 10 minutes late, like it's okay, I'll be in class. So it's like sometimes I just have to like strip away some of those extra thoughts and just be like, okay, I just gotta go to class and get everything done. And it helps.
That's awesome. Anyone else? Any final thoughts before we move on? Yes.
I would say for me, I try not to put like the academic foundation at the forefront for me, just because I know it's gonna like trying doing that is going to stress me out even more. So like I try to be like, okay, well, maybe I'll go learn something new today. Like maybe I'll learn something new in class. Maybe something will be really funny in class or something like that. I also live off campus, so I understand that. Like I have this class, I have the lab for research and design tomorrow in this room. I don't know how I'm gonna get there, y'all. We gonna make it.
So real.
Got you. Understand. So I'm hearing like a lot of not just coping mechanisms, but factors that can directly contribute to low motivation. Even very practical things like I live off campus. That means getting to class is 5, 10 times harder than if I live right here on living in CHS or CHN. So those are also some things, and as we move forward, that can tie in to different types of motivation.
Alright. So motivation is what, right? Like that's the internal battery that we have that keeps us going, right? That's our way of figuring out how we achieve our goals in a realistic way. What energizes you? What's your reason for and your purpose of setting that said goal, right? So we have two types here: intrinsic and extrinsic and intrinsic, right? So you y'all can read the slides. Let me know if you can't. I'll read it to you. So extrinsic, right? That's primarily just your external stimuli, right? Like just, and these are some of the things that we've been hearing, right? Like that motivation or some of those rewards that we've had in place or punishments. So while it might be your grades or how you convince yourself that you're going to do something, how you make your find your way around what might be a boundary, right, in achieving that goal. And then our second is the intrinsic, right? The internal stimulus, that thing inside you that's like, nah, you got to keep going. That's your passion, right? Your reason for actually just even being here. The big picture, as opposed to, all right, I'll get this grade. No, to kind of narrow it down, the grade is the the short term goal, right? But why are you in school? Why did you choose to pursue this degree, right? Whatever you're doing, why are you here? So that is what you find on the inside of you, and that's what keeps you, whether it be your faith or just your personal desires. You got a picture of your future house, home, car, family, lifestyle, whatever that might look like for you. That is some of the things that we can keep in our mind and hold on to as we get through these like rough moments, right? So like, can y'all name some like external? We already heard some external, but like some external and internal like facets of motivation that we kind of hold on to keep it going, especially at this time of the semester. Like the days are feeling longer, the sun is out a lot less. We coming into a colder season and just finals, midterms. What are some things that we holding on to keep us going?
Graduation. Literally, that's it. Like, I
Okay.
want to get out of this school
Real.
so bad. I'm
Real,
over it.
real, crossing the stage.
I'm over it.
I hear that. What else?
I'll say career aspirations.
I can't hear you, sorry.
Career aspirations.
Career aspirations. What are some of those? Do you have like specifics?
Oh yeah, well like graduation,
Mm-hmm.
as she said, and then like med school,
Yeah.
and then from there graduating med school, and then going into residency, fellowship, and then like being an MD.
Yeah. So professional milestones, focusing on what's next, right?
Mm.
Okay.
Something that motivates me is like knowing that we're going to be like the impact that I want to have on people, like knowing that like I'm studying and I'm doing it like for a reason and I'm thinking about the future people that I could impact with my knowledge.
Did y'all hear her on that side? She said just.
Can you repeat it? Oh, I said that thinking about like the fact that my knowledge and everything I'm learning right now is going to have an impact on people in the future, and like knowing that like I want to do that good.
So that's your passion, right? You're motivated by your passion. Okay. What else?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, I don't got my glasses on. Sorry. For me, like, it's really my scholarship, cause it's just like, if I don't do this and if I don't do the work, like, school's not gonna be paid for. Then I can't be here. So it's just like, it doesn't. It helps, cause it's like if you don't do this, then like you're screwed, honestly. But it's not really. I don't feel like it's necessarily like a good motivation, cause it's literally just me being like, it's kind of me forcing myself to do it. Like I don't really want to, but like I'm forcing myself to do it because I know like if I don't do this, then everything basically just like falls apart. Like I won't be able to survive.
That's real. I appreciate that perspective because I feel like a lot of us when we hear this word, right, motivation, what's your motivation? Like it can also your motivation could be your driver, but it could also be stress inducing also, right? Like focusing on a scholarship or that next professional milestone or am I prepared enough to go support the community that I want to support X, Y, and Z? It can create anxiety and stress in you, but also like big picture, like that's like we said, it's a motivator, right? So like they can be both. Who else haven't we heard from?
I more so had a question. So when you have a decrease in motivation or also like you start to procrastinate, but people go and misinterpret like procrastination as laziness. So when you get away with procrastination so often, like how do you go and like stop that and like how it directly like links to growth?
That's a good question. So she says her question is like how do we work through procrastination, right? And how do we like I guess align ourselves with the fact that it's procrastination and not laziness. While you might want to do it, it's not all you're not all the way energized or prepared to just sit down and get it done, right? That initiation. Does anybody have any ideas?
Having a routine is very helpful because like a lot of the time procrastination is just like it's not that you don't want to do it, it's just more so like you have a lot of things to do and I guess like compartmentalizing like what's most important to do first. So like having a routine or having like a to-do list kind of helps you say, okay, I'm gonna do this first and then it gets things done.
Okay. Can you speak a little bit more to your routine?
Oh, me personally, I don't have a routine. I just
That's the problem. Y'all don't be right. You said don't listen to me, but
Don't mind me. I'm saying what would work, not what I would.
see, y'all ain't here just talking. Y'all need to be practicing with
That's real.
but what I will say is like my ideal routine, I write this routine down all the time. I never do it, but like I write it down. So I'm just gonna say my ideal routine. So my ideal routine would be to like wake up, um, what's next? Like read my Bible, do some yoga, make up my bed, go do my hygiene routine, and then make breakfast, and then like leave. But I just get ready for class and then go right there, and then yeah. So yeah.
I mean, to your no, I was gonna say yeah. To your point too, I think one of the most important things when we're dealing with procrastination is to first really sit with why we are procrastinating. So instead of like automatically running to like beating yourself up and being like, oh my god, I should have did this assignment, I didn't do it. I should have did this, I didn't do it. Ask yourself why, because odds are whatever the situation is or the assignment or whatever you need to complete is so distressing to you that you're avoiding doing it. And so it's important to really sit with why is this so distressing and then trying to maybe break that down and figure out, okay, how can I make this less distressing? Do I need a plan throughout these days, small little aspects of the assignment that I need to do? Or am I just really burnt out and I really just need to take time for myself, and then maybe in that I'll find some, I'll be a little bit more rejuvenated to do the assignment or whatever. So I think that's the important thing with procrastination, y'all, because we experience it so much that it's important to really try to look at it from a different perspective and not beat ourselves up over it, and more so really try to sit with ourselves and understand, like, why are we procrastinating? Why is this so distressing for me? And then hopefully then you can kind of find what's going to work to help to alleviate that. So I think that's the first step, really. Yeah.
I also think that I also think that like working with someone else, like having a friend who's maybe in the same class, or like just a friend who can study with you can help a lot. Because I think it's good to be able to keep each other accountable. Like if I'm by myself, I can procrastinate my work forever. But if I'm with a friend, they'll be like, "Have you done your work yet?" And I'll be like, "Yep."
Accountability partner, maybe.
Sure.
That helps.
For me, I like to break tasks down into like very like small increments. So like if cuz all it takes for me, I've noticed, is once I get started, I can go. So if I break it into something small that takes like 5 minutes to do, I'm more than likely going to have now be motivated to finish the rest cuz I was able to do the small part.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We have this last comment, and then
Yeah,
we can
then
get
we
to
got
the
the
next.
comment.
I think lately what's helped me is getting off of campus to do my work or like doing it outside. I think that having like a different environment definitely motivates me to want to do my work because I don't know, some of the Howard air, I just get I just get stressed out. So definitely like going outside or going to like a coffee shop or something, it makes me more motivated to do my work.
Okay. So we're hearing change of scenery, accountability partners, setting like a realistic routine and goals, right? Moments where you could applaud yourself, feel proud, and like making sure that to-do list isn't unattainable. Like these are things that we can actually tackle and then feel good about it once we get it through, right? All right. Before we move on to the next slide, we're gonna do a temperature check in here because I'm feeling and sensing a lot of like low energy, right? And I know it's that time of semester and that time of night, fair. But we only got like maybe 20 more minutes together, so let's just tap in, be present with each other, and actually take this time to just be here, right? Because if your mind is wandering, then you're stressing yourself out sitting in the chair. What are you doing, right? So let's tap in and see how we could either get feedback from each other or you just relate to each other, right? Right?
Okay. So, with that, actually, we have a little exercise. This is the pre exercise. So, what I want you guys to do is I need a volunteer, period, to give me like a broad goal. Like, what is a goal for you? Or maybe if you want to extend it, a common goal for everyone else, it's up to you. And then we're going to work through from that goal what are some examples of some intrinsic motivations and then some extrinsic motivations.
Okay, so a common goal for everyone. I feel like, as stated earlier, definitely to graduate.
Amen.
Yes.
Okay.
That's a great goal.
To graduate, period. Anyone want to give me an example of, let's say, an extrinsic motivation? What is something external that can motivate you to graduate? You can shout them out.
Flexing.
You want me to write that down?
I just feel like, sometimes you gotta be like the cousin that got Howard A's,
Okay.
So, you know what I mean?
I'm going to write that down.
Giving yourself flowers.
That is real.
Right,
Like,
recognizing yourself for your
you
accomplishments.
know, Thanksgiving is coming up, I'm just saying.
Getting a what?
A good job that pays well.
Hold on, y'all. We have, you said a good
A good job that pays well.
that pays well. Okay.
Word. Another extrinsic motivation. Yes.
The time and the financial ability to like do other things.
So
I
many
think
things.
like travel. I know that's hard.
Excellent. So these are all sort of extrinsic motivations, external motivations that can motivate you, can drive you to graduate, to get this degree, to do the work, to lock in, flexing, being the person that can show up with your Howard degree all nice and pretty like you did it. That is an extrinsic motivation. Also, the practical things, getting a good job, getting a good pay, and then from that, having the financial freedom to maybe travel, to maybe invest, to do a whole host of things that maybe you might not be able to do right now, but that's your motivation to get that degree. How about internal motivations? Things that are more personal to you. So not things that are external on the outside, like money, like bragging rights, but things that are more personal to you. Yes.
Mine definitely has to be an impact side. Like to be the person, especially for the black lady, to
Mm-hmm.
especially like to say that like someone feels as though that I helped them or like just give them an idea or a different perspective on something and just like, man, look, you guys really helped me like really change how I thought about things, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
able to go on happier.
Period. That's awesome. Impact on others. Yes.
I feel like faith to be like really important in personal growth.
Yeah, it's a big one.
For sure. Yes.
A part of getting your degree, especially like in psychology, is that it's healing. A lot of people get into psychology to go and like understand people and understand themselves better, and like getting that achievement, it's can be a stepping stone, but also you have that foundation of better understanding yourself and the world and how you can go and make it better.
Awesome. Yeah, so I'm hearing impact on others. I'm hearing maybe connection to your faith or spirituality. Also, inner healing or self discovery. Like, not just getting the degree, but the journey, the academic and intellectual journey that you go on to get that degree can open up a lot of doors in terms of discovering yourself and discovering your interests and learning more about the world. So, those are examples of intrinsic motivations that can help drive you to achieve that goal. And for us, it's that goal to graduate. And so, here is an example or a basic theory of motivation. Have any of my psych majors seen this before?
Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So, this is a very basic, very common theory of motivation that basically places human motivation in hierarchical levels. So it says at the very bottom, we need our basic needs met. So food, air, water, shelter, our basic needs need to be met in order for us to advance to this next level, which is safety and security. So not only do we have our basic needs met, but is our home safe? Is our neighborhood safe? Do we feel secure with ourselves? Do we feel secure enough, let's say, going to class? Do you feel safe enough to walk out of your dorm and go to class and feel like you're going to arrive there safely? That's part of that second level. Then you have a sense of belonging. So your sense of community. Do you feel like you're a part of, let's say, the Howard University community? Do you feel like you have a group of people that care about you, a friend group, a family community? Do you feel like you belong in the spaces that you're in? Then we have the self-esteem piece. So that piece, that intrinsic motivation of self-discovery, that can really play into do you feel like you're respected in these spaces? Do you feel like you have a sense of competence in the degree, in the field that you're in? And then you have that final level of self-actualization. With self-actualization, it's that very abstract kind of understanding of I know who I am and I know who I am in the context of society. So I know my importance, I know my impact, and I'm able to operate as my full authentic self. However, as you can see, that's the very last thing. So all these other needs need to be met, and so a lot of times, if some of these lower needs are met, it can be hard for us to feel motivation and some of these higher tiered aspects in which we're often supposed to be working with whenever we're here at university. We're supposed to be working with our community. We're supposed to have a high level of self-confidence and self-esteem. And we're supposed to feel very competent when we walk in to take that exam or when we're asked to do a presentation. However, if some of these safety and security needs, if some of these food needs, if some of these needs aren't met, it can be very hard for us to feel motivated in order to show up the way we're asked to in a lot of these spaces. For example, the recent election. How many of you guys feel like this safety and security feels a little shaky? Yeah. That can contribute to feelings of low motivation and even anxiety because some of these lower needs aren't being met. And so that's something that we have to keep in mind when we're kind of evaluating, okay, why do I feel lower motivation? What needs may not be met for me? What may I need to call a friend for? Contact my family, outsource to my community, come to one of the offices at Howard, come to the counseling center for. Bless you. A lot of these needs, once we understand sort of what needs aren't being met and what may be the source of our low motivation, we can then have a better understanding of, okay, what might I need? What resources may I need to tap into?
Okay, so Karis kind of touched a lot on, we touch a lot on motivation in general, but I think it's important to really hone in on the anxiety aspect and think about how our anxiety is really affecting our motivation. So we kind of have a chart here to kind of explain this cycle of how our anxiety can diminish our motivations. So it starts with anxiety can produce a fear-based response to perceived threats. So that can be a variety of things. We touched on a lot of like external and internal factors that can be causing us some anxiety, right? So it can produce a fear-based response. We all kind of know that feeling. The fear is what causes you to avoid certain helpful behaviors. So that kind of, when we touched on the procrastination piece, it can start to kind of contribute to some of these what we call like maladaptive behaviors and ways of thinking. So we get into procrastination and avoidance and some of those other things. And then with that, it leads to, like I was saying, procrastination, rumination, worrying, a lot of that increased distress in us, which then leads to symptoms arise to attempt to suppress our anxiety. So a lot of those, like we were saying, avoidance kind of, you might be on, on TikTok instead of doing your work. All these things that we kind of use to suppress that anxiety, which can really be harmful to us because it kind of creates this vicious cycle. And so with that, these, like I said, fear-based feelings create a vicious cycle. The more we attempt to avoid the anxiety, the more it intensifies. And it leads to feelings of helplessness, can be worthlessness, could be incompetence, all these things that we're thinking about ourselves because we've created these patterns of anxiety internally. And this can diminish our motivations, which leads to our extrinsic motivations, some of those things that we've identified today. It can make them appear less important. So now we're so consumed with our own anxiety and stress that we don't even care about graduation no more. We just like, you know what, I'm dropping the class. I'm not doing this. I'm not doing the work. I'm not going to class. I don't care. And then that really is what creates this vicious cycle because now what? We have more anxiety because we've dropped the class, because now we're procrastinating and doing these things. So it's really important that we start with the source of our motivation diminishing, and that's our anxiety. And so it's really important to listen to ourselves, y'all, and check in with yourselves. I know we can get so consumed, especially around this time of year, with just like exams, work, papers you got to submit, presentations you got to do, all these important things, and we just keep going and going and going, even when we're experiencing some burnout. But it's really important to just pause and check in on our anxiety, because if we can manage the anxiety, I promise you the motivation will increase, and you'll find it a little bit, whether it be extrinsically or intrinsically. That question?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Like you mentioned, like how we just keep going and going and going.
Mm-hmm.
How do you know if you're burnt out or not?
You know, how do y'all know y'all burnt out? You don't? So
So is this
don't?
something that actually
It's a good question.
it's that feeling for me. Oh, sorry, I didn't know.
It's good, go ahead.
For me, it's that feeling of I can't do it no matter how much
saw some hands over here.
What do I say? It's like a double-edged sword because it's like there will be some things that you cannot do whatsoever, but then you'll still have the motivation for other things. So it's like you're burnt out about this one thing, but then you're still pushing yourself to do other things, and it's just like a vicious cycle of like when does it stop? Like I don't know when it's gonna stop. Like
Yeah.
Me?
Mhm.
I would say like you just for me it either two things like you wake up and then you just like you ever feel like the best way to describe it is like you know Squidward when he went to Squidwardville
oh my
and
god.
then slowly but surely it just everything he did started slowly like that's exactly how it feels one way and the other way is like I'll be writing something and then I'll like have a miniature crash out like I'll just start and then you know that's how I know but
Yeah.
I mean
Yeah, but
you
I
gotta
think
keep going.
burnout looks differently for a lot of people. I think one thing I always like to say is if I had to ask myself, am I burnt out? Yeah, I'm burnt out. Yeah, you're probably burnt out. So I think checking in with yourself, listening to your body, and sometimes it can be like paralyzing. Like you can't do anything no matter how much you know that you need to do this assignment or do this, do that. You can't do it. Like physically can't bring yourself to do it. And that is your body telling you, I'm tired. I need to rest, or I need to check in. We need to do some self care. We need to, take a moment. So I think those are some things to keep in mind. But it really does look differently for everybody. So just depends. Just check in with yourself.
I have a question. Do y'all feel like y'all check in with yourselves?
Oh yeah. What does it look like to check in on yourself? Open to everyone because I don't people be like doing self talks in the mirror. I think that shit's phony. So it's like how do you check in with yourself like for real?
I mean, it really can just start with, am I okay? Are you cool? Look at me. Are you for real? Like, are you cool? Are you okay? Am I like immensely stressed? Am I eating? Am I sleeping? Like, what's going on? That can be the start of it. Go ahead.
But if you think,
We'll go here and then we'll go there. Go ahead.
I feel like what's really cool about recent years is that there's like popularization of self care. So when like you ask like, so do y'all checking on with yourselves? I'm like, I mean, yes. And even if we don't, we have like people in our lives, like professors that are even trained sometimes to go and like look into like mental health and mental health days
Yeah.
because the amount of college students that get burned out and get stressed and drop out because of those things, like they're like, we can't fund our kids right now. Like we need to actually care about what they feel about.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I have a
Yes,
question.
go ahead.
Yeah.
Um, so I'm somebody like me personally. I struggle with a lot of fear-based anxiety, and I find myself like procrastinating and having a lack of motivation, and it's inspired by the burnout, I would say. But one thing that I struggle with is finding a balance between um, like acknowledging that I'm burnt out and like resting, but also like still being productive because anxiety is kind of just like a constant for me. Like I'm never not really like on edge, and
So real.
I think sorry if I'm wording this weird. I think it's just difficult for me to draw a line of like, well, when should I rest? Like, because I'm never not tired. You know?
That's fair.
But sorry, that was low key like.
That was
My bad. I was
like,
like,
for real though.
I'm tired like all the time. So I want to take time to check in with myself and rest and I guess the word would be like replenish, but I feel like too much of that could be what's the word like counterproductive. Like it could not be helpful. You know.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense.
To piggyback off what she said, because when she said, I'm never not tired, I never felt something so true in my soul. Like, but it also feels like the way Howard, like, it sounds like I'm complaining, but like the way that like school is set up, it feels like there is no time to check in on yourself. Like from August to like November, it's grind time. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you might get that cool one teacher that's like, oh, guys, you guys can choose to come to class, but it's like, even then, that's a gamble. You know what I'm saying? It feels like, especially this year, I don't know if it's like for me, but I feel like teachers are just harder. I mean, not teachers, professors are just harder this year than last year. I feel like last year was like, oh, it's okay, guys, I'll extend this. Now I had a teacher email me, well, if it's not done by today, it's not gonna, you'll never get a grade. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I don't know if they do that on purpose as a way to get freshmen in, and then and then you get all your credits. Now you gotta stay. It's like I gotta be. I don't know.
I I had like a little bit of a light bulb moment hearing y'all speak, right? Because first of all, what you said is real, right? Higher education isn't meant to be a walk in the park. If that was the case, there would be a lot more people doing what y'all are doing, right? And so the nature of this environment and the lifestyle, because being in academia is a lifestyle. It's not just something you're doing. It takes up a lot and consumes a lot of your life, right? So like what I've been hearing a lot of makes me want to ask, do y'all feel like, and maybe this is a question you have to ask yourself and answer yourself privately or whatever, because you might not be able to get to an answer right now, but do you feel like you need to earn a break, or do you feel like you owe yourself, like you need to have a break and you don't need to earn it, right? That's just something that's locked in, right? Like you need to eat, you need to close your eyes even if it's only for 3-4 hours, right? Do you like what else do you need to do? That goes back to those the level of the laws of hierarchy, right? I said that wrong. Maslow's hierarchy. There you go, right? Your needs,
Listening.
right? So like it comes down to like just being aware of yourself, right, and how you exist within the capacity of your lifestyle. So is it no, I need a break, this is locked in, or nah, I'll get a break if X, Y, Z. If I get through X, Y, and Z, then I can take a break, right? So, like, in terms of maintaining motivation, I think the key word is maintaining, right? And not repairing what's been lost or replenishing, right? It's not a recovery, it's more so maintenance to get you through.
And I'll say this, even though we do have to move on. This is something that I'm still working through, but as Black people, getting an education, especially getting an education here, no one is going to give you a break. You have to take it. Rest is something that you have to take, and you also have to take the shame out of it. So if you need a break, and a lot of times a question was asked, how do you check in? That's where that mindfulness piece comes in. And a lot of times I know it's kind of a buzzword, oh, be mindful, but what it means to be mindful is it means to be still. So be still in your body and be still in your brain and allow yourself to feel what's going on. I don't know if any of you guys have had this experience, but sometimes when I'm locked in working, I'll pause and I'll be like, why do I have a headache? Why is my heart beating so fast? And that's my body telling me it's time to take a break. Not give yourself a break, you have to take it. And that is the way, because, and a lot of us have talked about sort of that intrinsic motivation of impact. If you're not able to show up as your best self, are you really showing up in the way that you want? And part of taking that rest is making sure that you can show up as your best self. So it's starting to look at resting and mindfulness, checking in as a necessity and not a luxury. So reframing that piece.
Like honoring you before you honor your responsibilities. In order to get to part 2, you need part 1.
Yeah.
Okay. So, great discussion, y'all. I really appreciate y'all for, contributing, because this is really helpful, and you're helping your peers and yourself. So, this is good. But to again touch on some actual specific ways that we can help to manage our anxiety and maintain our motivation, starting with finding a sense of purpose, and this is all research based. I've actually specifically looked a lot into life purpose and how that impacts us, and how it impacts our distress. And most of the research actually finds that like having a high sense of life purpose tends to lower our distress levels. So it's really important to kind of hone in on your why, which is what we'll actually get to in our activity. But thinking back to, we talked about some of these internal and external factors that contribute to our motivation, but really thinking about your why, your passion. Why are you here? Why are you doing this work? and hopefully in that finding more of a sense of purpose for why you're doing certain activities. So that's really important. Also, our competence. I know y'all getting your little flags, bro. That's fine. I'm gonna keep talking. But competence, acting in a way that aligns with your capabilities. And my first thought with this is don't be afraid to ask for help, y'all. If you don't know something, get a study partner. See your professor after hours. You know, whatever the case may be realistic in your goals that are in alignment with your competency level. So if you're just not understanding, it's okay to reach out for help and to find someone to assist and get the help that you need. But just being honest with that is really important as well. And then finding things that are in your control. So the more control you feel over your life and your external environment, the more motivated you feel. So figuring out whether it's taking things from a huge macro scale and just pinpointing the micro little goals or micro things that you can do, focusing in on what you can and cannot control is extremely important with anxiety. And especially with a lot of people that have significant anxiety, there's a need to be in control or a feeling of wanting to be in control. And that is because when we're in control, we're not anxious about what's going to happen next. So it's really important to focus in on what we can control to kind of lower that anxiety for us. And then lastly, relatedness. So it says here, people are most motivated to do something when they feel it fulfills a bigger purpose. So what we kind of talked about earlier, really finding not only just the internal motivations, but how it can relate to others, maybe relate to your peers or the outside world, so you can feel kind of a sense of community and not feel isolated and some of those other things that can contribute to our anxiety, okay? These are really important things to tap into to actually try to help manage that anxiety for us.
Mind if I add something to it? And also give yourself permission to not have to be perfect. Right? Like sometimes showing up and giving what you can is enough. That's don't expect or punish yourself for not doing more or it shoulda, coulda, woulda. Like that won't help you. It's not serving you anything positive, right?
Mm-hmm.
So just acknowledge, give yourself a pat on the back for the little things that you're doing today, because that does matter, right?
Mm-hmm.
That is what's going to keep you getting up tomorrow and doing it again. If you don't take those moments, then you're really going to get lost in the why am I here again, you know?
Yeah.
So give yourself permission to just give what you can in the moment until you can give more.
Mm-hmm.
I did have a video for y'all, but we on top of that. All right, so does everybody have a index card? Everybody has it? All right. Anyone need a writing utensil? How y'all show up to school with no pencil? I just wasn't
Sharing is caring, y'all.
Yeah, whatever you want. Can you pass this back, please?
All right, so while y'all are getting a writing utensil out, what this exercise is if everyone has an index card, I want you to, on one side, write down your why. Write down that primary intrinsic motivation that motivates you to show up every day. For example, I'll be transparent. My why is I want my life to be an open love letter to the Black community. That is why I show up. So I want you to dig deep, not just for the money, not just for the bragging rights, and that's all great and that's all valid. But I want you to dig deep and figure out what is your why. That's one side of the note card.
Big and small.
Yep. And then on the other side, I want you to write down some behaviors, some practices, even some thoughts that you can have on a daily basis or incorporate into your routine to remember that why. So in times where your motivation is low, in times where you feel like I cannot look at another word in another textbook, I cannot do another goddamn stats problem, I want you to take out that note card and remember your why. Also, if you in stats and you want extra credit, this is what you're gonna turn in. So I would do it.
Real hard, y'all.
We have to put our names on it. It's for you, but I'm gonna create an assignment where you have to like type it and submit it. Yeah.
Be thoughtful about this though. Like realistic for yourself. Not just what sounds right, what you think you want to tell yourself.
No, I'm turning it in. It's
You know
free.
what I mean?
Even at a later time. Not right now. Yeah. Alright. And as we're writing, I'm gonna pass around the sign-in sheets. Please make sure that if you came for stats, you sign the stats sign-in sheet. If you came for RDA, you sign the RDA sheet.
If you didn't know there was two different sheets, then you might need to check.
There is no mistake. None of us. There is no mistake. Oh no.
No, we're not trying this one, but we are
Anyone in stats need the stats sign-in sheet? Anyone in RDA need the RDA sign-in sheet? Yeah, look. She wanna be funny. Yeah, she wanna be funny.
You said who?
Yeah, tell me.
Did you want to be funny?
Y'all can hold on to it. Hey, I have one thing, y'all. When you leave these doors, come up with something practical that you're going to be able to do for yourself this week that you don't have to earn, but that you need. Right? Something practical. It don't have to be a big spa day. It could just be clean your cuticles or something.
All right, real quick before you leave.
Time out, y'all.
Just give me a second. I know we over. But real quick before you leave, HUCS is having another mental health and wellness panel. It's going to be this Thursday from 3 to 4:30 in Blackburn in the forum room. This is going to be like a grand information session for all of the different offices and departments that are related to like student services, mental health, so that we can really decrease that Howard runaround. So if you need one service, this is where you need to go in order to know, okay, which office do I go to get whatever resource I need. This would be a great resource. So that is this Thursday from 3 to 4:30 in Blackburn, the Blackburn Forum Room. Sorry.
Huh?
You don't have to talk
I don't think so. Is this extra credit too?
No.
It's extra credit for you though.
But extra credit for y'all, for yourself.
You know what I'm saying? Because you might need some one day. Right?
Thank y'all for coming.
Follow us on IG.
Come see us at the counseling center.
What's the IG? Is it Howard Counseling? HU Counseling.
It's HU_counseling service.
Thank you, appreciate it. Oh, make sure you put your green pencils on the desk before you leave.
Thank you guys for coming.
Thank you.
Stay on stage.